the MCAT Cars Podcast, session number 41. The Cars section of the MCAT gives thousands of pre-meds nightmares every night. Whether you're an ESL student, lack confidence while reading, or a slow reader like me, Jack Weston and the medical school headquarters are here to help you score higher in every section so you can be confident you're ready to get the MCAT score of your dreams. And welcome to the MCAT Cars Podcast. My name is Dr. Ryan Gray, your host here every week. And as always, I am joined by Jack Weston from jackweston.com, the premier MCAT Cars tutor online. Now, just for fun, there was a new resource that was put out, the top pre-med resources online. And I was pleased to see that I was number one, but guess who was number two? Yes, the Jack Weston. So you are in the right place. Let me tell you a little bit of a story, a message that I got from someone online on Instagram. She got her MCAT score back recently, and her score went from a 124 to a 130 in the Cars section. And she said that she attributes it to the Cars podcast, right? She said 98% she attributes to the Cars podcast. So if you are listening to this, you are in the right place to have your score increase. If you are looking for some more MCAT Cars prep, go to jackweston.com. Sign up for his free daily MCAT Cars passages. Let's go ahead and jump in and go through another passage. Jack Weston back for some more MCAT Cars podcasts. How you doing today?
How's it going, Ryan? I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited. Get to learn, get to read, get to be taught by you. So any day I can do that is a good day.
Oh, I'm learning from you, Ryan. Let's do it.
It's a learning circle.
Exactly.
Well, talk about that for a second. For MCAT Cars, right? I talk a lot about how study groups are great for MCAT prep. How can a student utilize a study group for Cars?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely read a passage together, answer questions together, try to figure out what the big ideas are. I mean, it's kind of like what we're doing together. Students can do together as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. What do we have in store for us today?
So this is a passage that I find to be very interesting. I like this kind of topic, but I can see how many students may not like it simply because it's on literature. I mean, not that I'm a keen on literature, but the way the arguments that they bring up, the points of views that they bring up are interesting. And that comes down to just having an open mind, right? I mean, a lot of students always ask me, hey, is this easy? Is this hard? Well, it depends. It depends on your interests. It depends on how open-minded you are, right?
Yeah.
I think any student who does really well would find pretty much anything interesting to at least some degree. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we've been talking about it a lot lately is remove that knee-jerk judgment when you first glance at that passage and go, oh, crap, like, I don't like this topic. Like, just try to remove that from your thought process. It's hard, but I think it'll help.
Exactly. Yeah, just embrace it. You know, you have to read it. Might as well listen, hear the author out.
Yep.
Who knows? You may have some interest in it. And this comes back to learning. You know, you're learning as you're reading.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Okay. All right. So as always, you can follow along in the show notes. We'll have a link to the article that you can read before us and then see how you do. First paragraph here, reading medieval literature, it's hard not to be impressed with how much the characters get done, as when we read about King Harold doing battle in one of the sagas of the Icelanders, written in about 1230. Ooh, all right. So we're given a setup here. We're going to be talking maybe about medieval stuff, which is not my cup of tea, but I'm going to remove judgments and see if I can learn something. So the author is saying here, it's hard not to be impressed with how much the characters get done.
Great. You got the point. And, they bring in King Harold, and that might scare off a lot of students because they're thinking, wow, what? King Harold? When did I learn about King Harold?
Yeah.
Right? Doing battle? Sagas of the Icelanders? What?
Yeah.
That's okay. That's keeping an open mind, trying to see where the author's going. This is probably an example of how these characters got a lot done.
Yeah. You don't need to start recalling history lessons. Like, wait a minute,
No.
do I remember anything about King Harold?
Yeah, not necessary.
Yeah. Okay. The first sentence bristles with purposeful action. King Harold proclaimed a general levy and gathered a fleet, summoning his forces far and wide through the land. All right. So the author, again, kind of first sentence was, hey, these characters get a lot done. And then the second sentence is, here's everything that King Harold did. So just examples of what's getting done.
Excellent. Yeah, just an example.
Okay.
Go ahead.
By the end of the third paragraph, the king has launched his fleet against a rebel army, fought numerous battles involving much slaughter in either host, bound up the wounds of his men, dispensed rewards to the loyal, and was supreme over all Norway. This dude's a superhero.
Yeah. I know,
Does
I
it
want to
all.
meet this guy, right? Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So just more examples there. What the saga doesn't tell us is how Harold felt about any of this. Whether his drive to conquer was fueled by a tyrannical father's barely concealed contempt, or whether his legacy ultimately surpassed or fell short of his deepest hopes. I started laughing while I was reading that. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be a story about a psychology. Like, I want to know why you were so mean and angry and wanted to conquer all of Norway.
Isn't that interesting? I
Yeah.
mean, if you're paying attention and you're keeping an open mind, you connect with the author.
Yeah.
And you get to think about things that you might not have ever thought about.
Yeah.
You always see Superman and Batman and Spider-Man, but you never think about why they do the things they do.
All right. So a new comic series that we should what do you call when you hire somebody to do it? We should get somebody to do. It's called Superheroes on Couches. Right, sitting on the psychologist couch talking about. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. So yeah, it's interesting. So I hate medieval stuff. I hate kings and queens stuff. But that last sentence, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, why? Why did they want to do all of this stuff?
Right. And the author's bringing up different reasons, right? So maybe some contempt for some father, or something about, your hopes not being realized, right? You don't reach your goals. Who knows, but this makes you think about what we're talking about, so we're talking about the feelings that these people have, these characters in these medieval literature pieces have.
Yeah. Okay.
And by the way, it's kind of talking about the lack of it, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't tell us. So that's something that you should know, right? You should know that the author's pointing out that we don't really talk about our emotion or the characters' emotions and feelings and desires as they're, presenting the characters.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next paragraph. Jump ahead about 770 years in time to the fiction of David Foster Wallace. All right. So now we're potentially getting some more examples, maybe. We don't know yet. Just a jump in time to a new author.
Yeah. And keep track of the date, right? 770 years in time. Wow. That's a long time later,
Yep.
So keep that in mind. Okay.
In his short story, Forever Overhead, the 13-year-old protagonist takes 12 pages to walk across the deck of a public swimming pool, wait in line at the high diving board, climb the ladder, and prepare to jump. All right, so we have just an example from one of these fictions from the author. 12 pages. That seems like a lot of pages for such a short little thing that's done.
Nice.
And so I was just trying to connect it to the previous paragraph. Wait, it reminded me that the author was saying, hey, in these old things, characters are getting a lot done in like a paragraph. And then it seems like this dude is like 13 pages or 12 pages to walk across a swimming pool and get up the diving board.
Yeah. Awesome awareness of what's happening, right? In the past paragraph, the previous paragraph, third paragraph, all this stuff was happening. Now it's saying 12 pages.
Yeah.
So you're sensing a contrast, right? Maybe the future, it's kind of implying that the future gets stuff done less often, right? So let's go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, it would have been it maybe too easy if the author said, jump ahead about 770 years in time to how different the authors wrote, right? Like, oh, I guess it's different.
That's what every student's looking for.
Yeah.
Right. Like, just tell me why you have to hide it through all this crap, right?
Yeah.
But all this stuff that the author's saying, if you actually pay attention, will make you believe the author more.
Yeah.
Right? Like the author is actually saving us time by just telling us, oh, look, forest or forever overhead or whatever, this happened. The author expects you to know it, right? It's kind of like a personal statement. You show instead of tell. You can tell, admissions committees that you're hardworking and you're smart, but it's better to show it. That implies that you're hardworking and smart, right? So kind of what the author's doing here.
Yep. But over these 12 pages, we are taken into the burgeoning, buzzing mind of a boy just erupting into puberty. Our attention is riveted to his newly focused attention on female bodies in swimsuits. We register his awareness that others are watching him as he hesitates on the diving board. We follow his undulating thoughts about whether it's best to do something scary without thinking about it, or whether it's foolishly dangerous not to think about it. So we have a really long sentence here with the author saying, over these 12 pages, it looks like we're taken more into thoughts and feelings versus action. Whereas in the previous paragraphs, it was more about action and not the thoughts and feelings.
Great. That's it. So in modern literature, characters accomplish very little, but we're told a great deal about their thoughts and their feelings.
Yeah. Okay. These examples illustrate Western literature's gradual progression from narratives that relate actions and events to stories that portray minds in all their meandering, many-layered, self-contradictory complexities. So the author, I think, is just setting up, just showing this is the change in our literature.
Now, yeah, so this last part, meandering, many layered self-contradictory complexities, that confuses a lot of students, but that's kind of an example of how our minds work, right? They go back and forth. We're very, we can't make decisions quickly, right? So we go, we decide one thing and then decide another thing. So this is just a description of our minds, right? Our feelings, our thoughts.
Yeah.
And so don't get too tied up on these terms. It doesn't really matter, but you should realize the bigger point is there's a progression, right? A progression from showing a lot of action, doing a lot of things in literature to mostly talking about our feelings.
Mm-hmm. I'd often wondered when reading older texts, weren't people back then interested in what characters thought and felt? So the author is trying to figure out the minds of the readers way back when. Like, didn't they care?
Right. And I mean, this sentence does two things. One, it establishes that the author believes they don't really discuss thoughts and feelings in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's something the author really wants you to believe. Because some people may actually think that they do discuss thoughts and feelings in the past. So this question, it's kind of rhetorical in nature because it's trying to establish, look, we don't discuss thoughts and feelings in the past.
Yep.
But it also brings up a new point. Why? Right? So we're now going into this new direction of, okay, not only should you know this scenario, this situation, but let's discuss why, right? That's where the author's headed now.
Okay. All right. Next paragraph. Perhaps people living in medieval societies were less preoccupied with the intricacies of other minds simply because they didn't have to be. All right. So the author here potentially giving one reason why the people weren't interested in what characters thought and felt. I'm not really sure what he's saying other than just the strict wording here. They didn't have to be preoccupied with the intricacies of other minds, but I'm not really sure what that means.
Yeah, it's not clear. It's really not clear. They're just transitioning into probably what they really want to talk about, what they really care about. So let's keep reading and let's see where it's headed. A lot of times I see students get stuck on this transition.
Yeah.
And there isn't enough meat here, like there's just not enough stuff for us to really capture anything. So I'd say continue reading and see where it goes.
And that comes from a confidence thing. So if someone has isn't confident in their reading ability, they'll read the sentence and go, wait a minute, I'm missing what's supposed to be there. So they'll read it again and again and again versus just going, okay, I'm confident in what I read and I'm pretty sure this is just a transition. So I'm going to keep reading.
That's the difference between someone who scores a 124, someone who scores a 128.
Yeah.
Confidence. It's not your reading ability. It's not like, a 128 student scorer is going to be a better reader necessarily.
Yeah.
It's just that they're willing to go, okay, I don't know, let's keep reading. Right. And that's the key here. That is confidence. Absolutely. Because the student who's not confident starts doubting themselves, starts overthinking, starts thinking about things in the wrong way, misinterpreting things. And all you got to do is keep it simple. That's what I talk about in the course. And I try to show students that throughout the course is, how to break things down to find the big ideas the author really cares about without getting lost and without really getting worried.
Okay. When people's choices were constrained and their actions could be predicted based on their social roles, there was less reason to be attuned to the mental states of others, or one's own for that matter. So the author here is then defining what it meant by they didn't have to be. And they're saying the choices were more limited or constrained, as the word he used, and actions are predicted on social roles. So the author is painting this picture of what life was like back in these medieval times, where you had these roles based on who you were in society. And so you didn't really have to worry about what people were thinking. They just did what they were supposed to be doing.
That's it. Go ahead.
The emergence of mind-focused literature may reflect the growing relevance of such attunement as societies increasingly shed the rigid rules and roles that had imposed order on social interactions. So now this another kind of transition with the author showing why we had this change in literature because societies were getting rid of these rules.
Right. So when you get rid of these rules, now your thoughts kind of shine, right? Your feelings can come out, because when these rules were in place, you were just doing whatever you're supposed to do for your role, for your rule in society, or role in society, or the rules that you should have for that role. So yeah, so exactly. So that's what's going on. That's the reason. At least that's one of the reasons why the author believes there's a progression towards feelings in literature, right? Discussing feelings is the fact that our societal roles have been lifted from us, or they're kind of going away. They're dissipating.
Okay. Last paragraph. But current psychological research hints at deeper implications. So now another transition here saying, well, maybe it's not what I thought. We have this research that maybe shows a different reason. Literature certainly reflects the preoccupations of its time, but there's evidence that it may also reshape the minds of readers in unexpected ways. So just the author pointing out what the evidence is showing, it, not really diving into it, but just kind of surface level, it's reshaping the minds. And so this is one of those transition sentences that I'm not going to try to reread to figure out what he's saying. I'm going to hope that he dives into what those unexpected ways are.
Go for it. Yeah.
Stories that vault readers outside of their own lives and into characters' inner experiences may sharpen readers' general abilities to imagine the minds of others. So the author, the research is pointing to when you write about or when you read about the minds of other people, it helps you also imagine what's going on as well.
How does this relate to the previous paragraph, Ryan?
I'm trying to think about it. So part of it is, oh man, it's so weird. Like it could go so many different directions. But the first thing that pops into my mind is once once we started writing about people's thoughts and their minds, other people started to be able to put themselves in those people's minds and situations as well. And potentially that's why societies are getting rid of these rules, because they're like, oh, I can understand why that person's life isn't so good. I don't know.
Yeah, so you're very close. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's not discussing necessarily why anymore. It's talking more about the impact. So they're not really discussing the constrained roles anymore, right? That was in the previous paragraph. This paragraph says, okay, look, that's happening, right? It's definitely something that's happening, but it's also reshaping the readers. And that's it. It's just reshaping how they think about things, how they imagine things. But I don't think you need to bring in that extra layer of, well, this reshaping also makes them do more, right? I don't think it's necessary to go that far. So what should you know? I think the second sentence of this paragraph is the most important. It says, literature certainly reflects the preoccupations of its time. So as society changes, literature is changing, right? So that's definitely there. But this extra information is going in a new direction. It's saying that it also reshaped the minds of readers in unexpected ways. Mm-hmm. So this is actually a tangent. This is a totally different kind of idea, totally different direction. We're not discussing why literature progressed. That was discussed in the previous paragraph. Now we're discussing how this progression kind of impacts society, right? That's it. That's all we're kind of doing here. And we're saying that it impacts society by making them more aware of other people's minds, right? And you can kind of think about different perspectives and feelings, etc. But that's where the authors stop.
Okay. I was going too far based on the political climate that we have today. I'm like, oh, maybe we just need people to read more books and then we'll all understand each other. Oh, all right. If that's the case, the historical shift in literature from just the facts narration to the tracing of mental peregrinations may have had an unattended side effect, helping to train precisely the skills that people needed to function in societies that were becoming more socially complex and ambiguous. So this last sentence here basically looks like it's saying that reading is going to help people function in the societies that are changing around them.
That's it. It not only changed because of the social construct changing, but now it's actually helping the social construct that's changing, right? It's helping society. So this paragraph is veering off into this direction of how it actually helps society, this new society, right? But it doesn't necessarily say that it's helping this new society become more open-minded. It's just helping society in some way, the current society it's in.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So it's interesting. We went from, hey, we have a king who does a lot very quickly, but why? Like, why does he do it? To a boy walking across the deck of a swimming pool, and we get kind of all of his inner thinkings. And then basically it ends with books are changing society and society are changing books.
Right.
Wow. Okay. So what's a big kind of takeaway from this?
What is the big takeaway? What should you know? What do you think? What's the main idea is what?
The main idea for me is, I mean, we could go main idea. Oh man, is
you know it. Like what was discussed in the first 3-4 paragraphs.
What was discussed was literature way back in the day didn't really care about the mind, and now it does.
Okay, that's one part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also kind of describe why, right? It's that social kind of construct that's leaving, that the social norms that people project on people are kind of going away, right? And that's why. I think that's pretty much the main idea. The main idea is the medieval literature focuses less on the mind because it comes from this deeper or more constrained social environment, but that's it's leaving. So we're becoming more focused on people and their perspectives and their feelings.
All right, so there you have it. Another great passage for you. I wholly recommend you sit down with these episodes. You go to the article that we have a link to. You read through the article as we are reading through it, and you really try to think through everything that we are trying to think through, or everything that I am trying to think through, to see if you can come up with the same responses that I get to or that Jack corrects me on. So go to jackweston.com, sign up for his free daily Cars passages. If you're looking for even more in-depth, check out one of his courses. Hope you have a great week. We'll see you next time here on the MCAT Cars Podcast.
This is MedEd Media.